Welcome to From Here to There podcast, a platform that showcases dynamic women and their journey to success. I'm Daphne Bryson Jackson.
On this episode of From Here to There, Daphne sits down with veteran entertainment attorney Bernie Lawrence-Watkins to explore the business of creativity and the power of ownership in the music and entertainment industries. For nearly 2 decades, Bernie has represented Grammy Award-winning producers, platinum-selling artists, record executives, and entertainment companies. But her work goes far beyond contracts. Bernie has built a career standing at the intersection of law, culture, and commerce, advocating for artists, mentoring young lawyers, supporting community initiatives, and helping the next generation understand the value of ownership in creative industries. This episode explores the unseen side of the entertainment business, the deals, the negotiations, and legal protections that transform creativity into generational wealth.
Welcome, Bernie. I am so excited to have this conversation today. We got lots to talk about, so we're going to jump right in, okay?
Excited to be here.
Thank you. Let's go back to the beginning, all right? And I want to spend just a little bit of time on this. Did you always know you wanted to be an attorney?
Not always. I thought I was going to be an entertainer.
Okay.
So I grew up in New York City. I used to perform when I was in elementary school, high school. I used to sing.
Okay.
And I attended a performing arts high school. My major was voice.
Wow. So like fame?
Yeah, that's the school I went to, actually.
Nice.
Yes, my major was voice. And I was in school with a lot of other competitive students who were much better than me.
Okay.
And my teacher used to say, you really need to really consider whether or not you're going to do this full time. You have to be willing to starve or possibly be homeless, sleep in your car. Those are the situations that happens to people who are creative, unfortunately. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm that passionate about becoming an artist.
Right, that's passion.
But it wasn't until I went to Howard University with my brother, who ended up getting a record deal while we were in college. And it turned out not to be the best deal. And when he lost the deal, that was confirmation for me that I need to go to law school and work behind the scenes with creators to make sure they got the best deals possible, and those that were in bad deals to make sure that they got out of them.
Wow. Okay. So you answered it because that's kind of your here. I love that.
Yes. So I'm an advocate for the creators.
So let's peel that back. Walk me through when we talk about intellectual property. Kind of explain to our audience kind of what that means and why it needs to be protected.
Sure. So intellectual property. Well, there are 3 types of intellectual property. You have the intellectual properties relates to music. Then you have music is part of copyrights. So you have copyright law, then you have trademark law, and then you have patent law.
Okay.
So based on what I do, my work is more so related to copyright and trademarks.
Okay.
So with copyright is the creative work of authorship that's placed in a tangible medium of expression. That's the technical definition.
Okay.
So what do I mean by that? So you look at a creative work. It's an expression. So the expression has to be detailed enough that has enough creative elements, and it has to be captured. It has to be fixed. So if you write it down, for example, or if you type it on a piece of paper, that's fixed. Okay. If you draw a painting, it's fixed.
Okay.
If you record a video, that's fixed. So if you're dancing and you record that video, that's fixed.
Okay.
If you capture your work on audio, so if it's recorded, it's fixed. So something that's captured is tangible.
Gotcha. Okay.
You have a copyright at that moment. But the sole purpose of registering the work with a copyright office, so is in the event that someone steals your work or infringes upon your copyright, you now have prima facie evidence that you can take to court to show that this particular work existed on a particular date, and now the court will allow you to move forward. If the work was not registered with the Copyright Office, the matter would be dismissed. Okay. So it's a requirement.
You can't prove it. Yes, sir.
That's a requirement, and it's because anyone can say that they created particular work on a certain day, a lot of people talk about mailing the work to themselves and then having it in an envelope where they don't open it and someone steals the work. That's their evidence. But we call that the poor man's copyright, which is non-existent in law, in the U.S. law. There are jurisdictions outside of the United States that actually do that. Okay. But in the U.S., that is not. Okay. So copyright related to music, there are two sides. You have the musical composition side, which is where the publishing lies. Mm-hmm. That involves the right of the lyrics, the melody, and then the music itself. Okay. On the sound recorded side, which most refer to as the master, you have the vocal performance, the arrangement, which is what the producer does, and then you have the music. Okay. So those two sides operate independent of one another and generate their own source of revenue.
Interesting. Okay.
And then you can have one person that owns both the musical composition and they also own the sound recording. But in most cases, the creator of the musical composition, that's the writer. And a lot of artists don't write their music. They hire a songwriter to write. Okay. So the artist wouldn't own any rights in the musical composition, but their vocals are on the sound recording. So they do have rights in the sound recording. But if they are signed to the record label, they are technically a work for hire. And then those rights are now owned by the record label.
Wow. Okay.
So there's a lot involved there.
I was going to say there are lots of steps and pitfalls I hear in a space where a young artist certainly could be misguided or taken advantage of or just wrong. I mean, just not understanding.
Not understanding. So when they come in this space, they don't realize there are two sides. There's the musical composition side where the publishing lies, and then there's a sound recording side. And they operate independent of one another. So you have to understand the rights that are associated with both and how they relate to one another and how revenue is generated from them separately.
Right. All right. So you go back to your brother, his deal didn't work out, law school. Did you start your career at a big firm? Have you always worked for yourself? Walk me kind of through how you got to your firm today.
Yes. So when I moved to Atlanta back in 95, this was around the Olympics. Okay. A lot of jobs were not available at the time. So I got a job with, I was doing document review with Jones Day, and then I got a job with Kilpatrick Stockton doing document review, and then they hired me actually as a paralegal. Okay. And then 2 years later, they hired me as a contract attorney in their business transactions department, working on closings related to cell towers. That's when cell phones started becoming popular. Okay. So I was working on the closing packages for that. But then I started doing some moonlighting around town in Atlanta because I've always had an interest in entertainment. Okay. And I would go to the open mic nights, just trying to find talent, like what was going on. I didn't go to school in Atlanta. I went to school. I went to undergrad at Howard, and then I went to law school at the University of Baltimore. Okay. But the reason why I moved to Atlanta was because a good friend of mine said that instead of going to LA or New York, which is what my plan was, he said, you need to consider Atlanta because Atlanta was the next up and coming area for the music industry. So that's how I ended up in Atlanta.
Okay. All right.
And I didn't know anyone. And I was trying to figure out the lay of the land, realized that it was not as easy as I thought. So
it never is.
I had contacts in New York. So what I would do is I would fly back and forth to New York like once a month because they would have industry nights during the week. And I started developing relationships with the record execs. And what I would do is when I would meet people in Atlanta, I would make introductions to the label execs in New York and send them music. Back then, what they would do is you would create a CD, put the music on a CD and send it out to them. And then they would listen to the songs on the CD to determine which artist they wanted to play it for that was signed to the record label. Okay. And if they were interested in the work, then we would facilitate a producer agreement between the producer and the artist.
Okay. So you're still moonlighting on this at this point?
Yes, okay. I'm still moonlighting. And then I started working with a producer who happened to work with an artist that worked at the radio station, and that artist was Ludacris. Ah. And my producer ended up producing half of that first project and then half of the second project. And at that time, I started working with other producers as well who produced for 50 Cent. And then my brother was also a producer. He worked with people like Luther Vandross at that time, and Faith Evans and Mary J. Blige. So when he saw what I was doing, he said, come and work with me and be my lawyer. So that gave me an opportunity to have some insight on some bigger deals. Mm-hmm. And I sought out some attorneys in Atlanta who were practicing in the space of entertainment. And one in particular was the late, great Kendall Minter, who's no longer with us. Mm-hmm. He became my mentor, and I would first look at the deals, try to negotiate them, and then have him look at it to just basically see if I was doing it correctly. Okay. So when I started making enough money on my own as a side hustle, that's when I decided to go out and start my own firm. Okay. And it's been gravy since.
How many years have you had your own firm?
Since 2002.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So that's a good 24, run. Yeah. 24 years.
Almost 25 years. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So sounds like you've had the opportunity to work with, obviously, some great names, some great talents that we all recognize. Tell me about, what your process looked like in terms of identifying young talent. Because I think I know that you have a penchant for, new artists and cultivating that talent. Yes. And making sure that they get the deals that are good deals.
That's correct. So my gift has been being able to identify talent early. And I really enjoy that because I do have an ear for music. I studied music. Okay. And I love music. And that's not to say that as an entertainment lawyer, you have to do that, because you have a lot of entertainment lawyers that are clueless about the art of music. But for me, I understand it. Okay. And in my opinion, I know what's going to be a hit and what's not. And I would also look to not just how talented an artist is or a creator is, but more so their work ethic. That's extremely important to me, because I know as an entertainment lawyer, I work really hard. Right. And I can't be working harder than you. No, I'm serious.
Hope not.
That happens at times. Wow. So it's really understanding their work ethic and their vision. Do they have a vision for themselves? Because I can help you, but I can't create your vision. Right. You have to have some type of understanding of what it is that you want to do. You know where you are now, but where do you plan on going? What does that look like for you? Okay. So just having an understanding of that. And it's like I can help cultivate that for you because of my relationships in the business. I've been doing this for quite some time now. I've done great business. So it's easier for me to open the doors for people that work with me because of the relationships that I've secured throughout the years.
So, in Atlanta, I guess you got lucky, or you got it right in terms
Not
of
lucky.
Coming. Right. I changed it. I said, got it right. I agree. It wasn't luck. Being in a place that has become such a hotbed for musical talent. What is it like as a woman in this industry? Right. Because, I know there are a lot of female entertainers, but I'm not sure, because I don't know. This isn't my lane. Are there a lot of women on the business side or the transaction side of the entertainment world?
Well, just think about it. With lawyers in general, we have less than 5% that are the black lawyers, right? And then women lawyers, we're less than 3%. Wow. So when you look at the entertainment industry, it's even lower than that. Mm-hmm. And it's, I would say, more like 1%. Now, for me being in a male-dominated industry, a white male-dominated industry, it hasn't been easy. I had to go through a series of being disrespected because I didn't have a name. Nobody knew who I was. Mm-hmm. So you have to build up your reputation. And what I mean by that is it's really about who you work with. People want to know your roster of clients, and they go based on the success of that talent. If that talent is successful, they want to know who is the lawyer behind that talent. Okay. Who's the one that curated that deal or made that happen for that artist or that producer. So it hasn't been easy, but I'm very resilient. And I had to make sure that I had an understanding of who I was and what I was looking to accomplish. Okay. So based on that, it's like building an identity for myself in the business of how I wanted to flourish and the type of deals that I was looking to do and build a reputation for myself. And doing good business is extremely important, and having a reputation of integrity is extremely important. Absolutely. Because when you're working with creative people or athletes in general, celebrities, trust is a huge issue. Yeah. So they want to know that the people that they're working with are someone that they can trust, someone that is not going to talk about their business, let people know what's going on with their deals, and someone who's going to be fair in assessing their talent versus what's being placed on the table, and who's going to negotiate in their favor. Okay. And it's not about just closing a deal. It's never been that for me. It's about closing the right deal. Okay. So if a deal is not good, I'm going to let my client know what is on the line and what could potentially happen if we move forward with this deal. Okay. So there have been instances where I basically removed myself from a negotiation because I didn't think the deal was good and I didn't want to have any association with the deal. Wow. Because if something goes down, they're gonna look at who's the lawyer behind the deal. Right. And I never wanted to be that person. Wow. Okay.
We talked a little bit about, before we started, as the business is evolving and changing. Talk to me about AI and how you have woven AI into your practice and what you're working on now.
Sure. So initially I had producers who were working in the space of AI, and I was invited to speak on various panels about AI and just basically educating the public that AI is basically, generative AI involves work that's pre-existing, right? So can you claim rights to an AI-generated work? And the law says you cannot. If something is 100% AI generated, you don't have any copyright claims in that work. So I came upon a young lady who was a songwriter, she was a songwriter, and she also wrote poems. And she generated her own avatar and started releasing music via social media and on TikTok, and it started going viral. And next, she was offered a multi-million-dollar deal. And then she was offered many other, a songwriting deal as well as endorsement deals. Okay. And it goes on, and then invited to appear on shows like Gayle King and Tamron Hall show. And it's been a very controversial run because people are not very comfortable with the space of AI. And that's mainly because they don't understand it.
Right.
Now, copyright, we talked about copyright earlier, and copyright is the basis of the law that covers AI works. And the way it stands, a song that is 100% AI generated cannot be copyrighted. However, if you can prove that you have substantial human contributions to that creative work, now there's an opportunity for the Copyright Office to review your application to assess whether or not they would consider it for an actual copyright.
Wow. Okay.
But you have to be very detailed in how you present your human contribution to that AI generated work. So there's a science to it.
Okay.
Currently there's no identifiable elements per se, but just the understanding that the work has to be created by an author because that's what's defined in the Copyright Act, a creative work of authorship. Authorship can only be created by a human. So an author is a human.
Okay.
It cannot be a company. A company cannot generate a creative work.
So it sounds like there's going to, obviously, as AI continues, it's not going anywhere, and it's only going to continue to get bigger and bigger. What do you think the business looks like 3 years from now?
I think the business will involve every major record label signing AI artists. We will hear more AI music.
Okay.
But it's going to be in a way where it's controlled, because once the major labels get involved, then you can have an idea of where the business is going because they are the drivers behind the music industry. And right now, back in 2024, they sued the AI companies that were generating these AI creative songs. But as of 2026, they have now partnered with these companies.
Wow. Okay.
To create their own catalog database of music, which can be licensed to the public. So if you can use these licensed work and you can pay the songwriters who created this licensed work, now we can do business. So to answer your question, I think the business is only going to continue to grow. They are now creating, just like you have CEOs and now you have chief AI officers.
Right.
In every company. So we'll see that change as well. So AI is here to stay.
Yeah. I love it.
And okay. I'm proud to be at the forefront of it.
I'm proud of you for being the forefront of it. I can't wait to kind of watch the progression of this and where it takes, I think, you and your career. Let's talk a little bit about, journeys, right? From here to there for me is all about women's success journeys. And I think it's important. I spend a lot of time, as I know you do, talking to young people. And I always try to tell them there's no one way to be successful. There's no one way to do anything, right? There's paths to all of it. Talk to me about a time in your career, because it seems like you've had this amazing, great, everything's perfect. And I know that's not true, right? Because nothing is. Talk to me about a time in your career where maybe you had a detour, where you had to pivot, where you thought you were headed in one direction and you ended up somewhere else.
Well, there was a time where there was a shift that was happening in the entertainment industry when streaming was becoming a thing. And you started seeing a shift and people didn't know what was happening with the music business. And there started to be more of a growth with independent artists that were not signing to the major labels because they did not like the whole essence of 360 deals. Mm-hmm. So in that regard, the business was changing. There were a lot less deals taking place, but you still got to be able to operate and put food on the table. So I said, well, I had the opportunity to get some PI work, and I started handling personal injury cases.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I realized quickly that wasn't for me.
Okay.
I did that for probably 2 years, and I just did not like that at all.
Right.
And I was like, let me just get rid of this and move forward, continue to fulfill my practice in entertainment. And I started working more so with independent artists. Okay. And one in particular was 21 Savage. He came to me through a referral. He was unknown. This was back in 2015. And he was very determined to become a successful artist. He had a vision for himself and was extremely talented and had a work ethic that was beyond measure.
Wow.
He stayed in the studio recording songs. And I said I would work with him. And we put out his first commercial project in July of 2015. It was, we did a 1-album deal. This was his first time doing a deal. And it was a very successful project. The project went platinum within the first 4 months.
Wow. Okay.
All the record labels started calling. They all wanted to sign him. Mm-hmm. But I said to him and his team, if he can do this on his own, we can't go into a major label with just an artist deal. The only way we can do this is through a partnership deal. Wow. So we negotiated a licensing deal where he owns all of his work. So he owns all of his masters, he owns all of his publishing, and he's got one of the best deals out there.
That's amazing.
And he talks about it to this day. So that's when you know you did something good.
As he should. That's cool. Any other names we'd recognize that you've gotten like really signature deals for?
Oh yeah, Latto. I helped her. She after she worked on the I think it was called The Game with Jermaine Dupri.
Yes.
Her and her mom came to meet with me, and we worked on her deal with RCA. I remember getting a call from the record labels 11:30 at night on a Thursday because she was small. She was signed to a small independent company just doing distribution work because she owned all her rights, and it was a distribution deal. I got a call on a Thursday night, 11:30, saying we need you to get on a flight at 7:30 in the morning to New York. And I said, what's going on? They said, we want to offer her Latto a deal. And can you make it? And I was like, and I called her. I was like, okay, we're coming. We're going to make this happen. We basically, from the moment we got into the office, we began negotiating the deal. Say like around, the flight was 7:30, got there around 9:30. So got to the office probably like around noon. We negotiated until 11 o'clock at night. Wow. And then closed the deal, and she became a very successful artist. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I can go on and on with a lot of names of people that I represent who've been very instrumental in the music business. And for me, it's not really about the name, but more so about, again, getting the best deals possible to make sure that it's a deal that can change their life. Yeah. And that's really what I focus on.
That's awesome. I think that's, to me, that's kind of where the magic is, because you're right. I mean, it's fun to do all these things, but if 10, 20, 30 years from now, you and your family aren't in a different position, I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. And then again, as you know, I can do the best deals possible for you, but then I can't manage your money for you.
No, you can't. Okay.
That part I hand off to somebody else.
Okay. All right. Let's pivot a little bit. So your Instagram handle is Bernie Gets You Paid.
That's the word on the street. Cut that check.
I absolutely love that from a person who loves branding and marketing. When I saw that, I thought, wow, now that's real and that's catchy.
And how did I get that name?
How did you get that name?
Well, it wasn't a name that I gave to myself. It was because I was at one point, there was a series of deals that I was closing. I was closing a lot of deals back to back. It was like back to back to back to back. And with social media, I don't want to say announce the deals, but you talk about the deals that you're closing in terms of, we just closed this deal,
Right.
or the client is posting about it. So people started saying, Bernie gets you paid. There she goes. Look, Bernie gets to the bag, or Bernie gets you paid. And they'll say, if there's someone on social media advertising that they're having some type of legal issue with their label, they say, you need to contact Bernie. She'll get you paid. So it just became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to trademark that. And I went ahead and I trademarked Bernie gets you paid. It's been history since then.
Absolutely love that. I got to come up with me a fun Daphne gets you something. I don't know what. What's your superpower? Like, if you had to give me one thing that, I think obviously you clearly have tons of talent, and Bernie Get You Paid is definitely a great one. But what's your superpower?
My superpower, I would say, is the power of discernment. I pay close attention to the vibes that I get from people. I think that's extremely important. If it doesn't feel good, then I'm not going to move forward in a situation. Because I think it's really important for us to work with others that we feel comfortable being around.
Yes.
And having an understanding of whether or not there's a connection. And there's nothing worse than working with someone just to collect a check, and it's just not a great situation.
Right.
And I won't do that.
Yeah. I'm the same way.
Yeah, I just won't do that. And generally, based on my experience and what I've seen, when I said I wouldn't work with someone, it turned out being correct.
You were right.
It was I was right.
So you're very comfortable going with your gut, clearly.
Very comfortable going with my gut. I consider myself to be very well grounded, and I don't move based on what other people are doing. I'm going to sit back and assess the situation before I take the step to move forward.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, younger women. What would you tell a young woman that came to you and said, Miss Bernie, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be like you. What would you tell her? What would you tell her? What would you tell her, and what would you tell her to watch out for?
Well, I'll tell her, don't focus on being like me. Focus on being the best version of yourself. Don't make me be your bar. You have goals and aspirations that you want to fulfill based on your talents. And your talents are not the same as mine. So never compare yourself to someone else. Run your own race.
I love it.
You cannot put yourself in a box, or you should not put yourself in a box and try to discern which box is better than the other, because it's not about comparisons. It's about having an understanding of who you are and what you're looking to accomplish. And you move forward based on the things that you're looking to do and accomplish in life. So I don't think a lot of younger adults spend enough time assessing who they are and what they're looking to accomplish. It's more about living life today. And I do believe you should enjoy life. Life is a journey. Life has many twists and turns, but it's about the possibilities of what you can create for yourself. And those possibilities are limitless.
I love that. That's great advice. That's great advice for somebody who's not young. So thank you. I'm going to take those words. What's next? What's on your horizon? I always, from here to there is about a journey, right? And we all move through life and these careers. And we've got families and we've got all these things. But where do you see Bernie 5 years from now?
Great question. On tour with my book that's being completed. And I'm also considering a judgeship.
Wow. Okay.
So I've been assessing that.
Okay. That's a different lane. I love that.
It's a different lane.
Can you talk about the book? Can you share any
Sure.
details?
Yes. It's because it's in the editing phase right now. My book is about my journey coming from a different country and my experiences growing up in New York and what led me to seek entertainment law as a career. And then the experiences that I encountered as I was growing into who I am today. So there are a lot of lessons in the book of the do's and don'ts, as well as ethical issues and concerns when you're practicing law. And it's just not practicing law, but also anybody can relate to it. It's just really you're going through certain situations that you encounter and you're like, what do I do? Especially as a young attorney.
Right.
And the funny thing is my author, when she interviewed me, she was like, wow, your book is like, this could really be a movie.
Sounds like it.
So I'm looking forward to it.
So along those lines, who would you want to play you in the movie?
Who would I want to play me? A lot of people say Elise Neal, and I favor Elise Neal.
You do.
So
You do.
I think she would be a perfect choice.
Okay. You do. As soon as you said that out loud, I was like, that's it. As we close, I want to spend a few moments. Your son works for you now.
Yes.
Talk to me about that process, that relationship, and what's that like on a day-to-day basis?
We both keep each other accountable. It's been great having my son work for me because I trust my son. I trust him with my eyes closed.
Nice.
And it's really difficult finding people that you can trust.
Yes.
So he fills that void for me. The other thing is it allows me to see my son and communicate with my son every day.
Nice.
So that's been great as well.
I bet.
And I know that he has interest in the entertainment industry, becoming a successful artist. So it's an opportunity for him to learn behind the scenes what happens. And when you are hiring people to work for you, the various positions that exist and what that looks like when you're putting together a team. And especially what I do as a lawyer to help protect the creatives behind the scenes.
Right.
So it's a lot of great exposure for him. And I just want him to be the best that he could possibly be and have a great understanding, not just of the creative space, but also the business, because it's a business first.
Absolutely.
It's 90% business, it's 10% about the arts.
Okay. Let's talk about a time when somebody didn't take your advice, when a client didn't take your advice and ultimately paid dearly for it. Give me some examples or a scenario.
Sure, absolutely. There was a situation where, in the entertainment industry, the business is full of conflicts. And what do I mean by that? You have a talented artist who has interest in becoming a very successful act. And then you have people who are interested in signing this artist, but they want to sign the artist under a management contract, and they also want to sign the artist under a label contract. And you can understand why that's not a good idea, because generally the manager is the person who advocates on behalf of the artist to the record label. And if there are any issues or concerns that are happening with the artist and the record label, that manager will bring that to the forefront and will try to resolve those issues. Now, if the same person who is the manager is also your record label or production company, you can see the issues that lie there.
Right.
So you're talking to an artist and you're telling the artist, well, I don't think it's a good idea for you to sign both contracts. Maybe you should just consider one contract or none.
Right.
But when they sign, and this has happened, it's a common practice in the business. And it basically is a detriment to the artist's career because there are going to be issues down the line.
Yeah.
And then you can't move forward in the deal. And in this particular case, this artist delivered a lot of records to the label, and they could not, the label for some reason would not release any of the recordings. And then according to the label or production company, they kept saying, well, the records weren't fully delivered because it's all subjective. And therefore, the artist was stuck in their deal. It's not like they could exit out. I mean, they could file a lawsuit, but a lot of these artists don't have the money to move forward with a lawsuit. And lawsuits can end up taking years to resolve. So you're better off handling the business on the front end, or I should say doing good business on the front end, and having an understanding of why you shouldn't move in certain directions. So you shouldn't just be blindsided by the money that someone is placing in front of you, because that ultimately can kill your entire career. And those are the issues that have happened, and I'm not going to name names.
Okay, that's fair. All right.
So in terms of what happens when a client does listen, I will name names. You look at someone like 21 Savage, when it's like, look, let's do a licensing deal. These are the opportunities that are available to you. And he's reaping the benefits big time from it.
All right. Well, a couple things. One, when you do your book tour, please come back. I'd love to have you back on.
Absolutely.
And we spend some time talking more about the book and what you want to share about it. So that's an open invitation. And secondly, I'd love to have you come back and bring one of your artists. So if you've got a young woman that you think makes sense to be on From Here to There, I would love to have you bring her on.
Okay, absolutely.
So
we'll do that.
Thank you for this time. It has been amazing. I was already a fan. I don't fangirl often. I'll be very honest with you. But I've watched you for years, and we've been in a lot of similar circles and spaces, and I've always just enjoyed how you move. And so I'm a bigger fan today after really understanding your world and how you do what you do. So thank you for joining us, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It was a pleasure to be here speaking with you today. I enjoy the questions. They help give me some insight into what my life looks like. And I look forward to coming back and sharing my book with you. So thank you again for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, or subscribe. And please leave a comment. This is Daphne Bryson Jackson, and I'll see you at the next intersection.